G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And the sun is just coming up. It's about 8 degrees outside. The air is nice and dense, which means it's ideal conditions to put my Lexus ISF on the dyno and see how much power it makes.
Fuel mixture wise, it's actually relatively quite rich, which I'm surprised about. I think I saw it because it's a port and direct injected engine. Yeah. So usually when they run DI, you can get away with running it a lot later. I mean, it's not bad. It's only when you're wide open throttle, and the part that's actually really rich is at like $6 grand and up. When I ran it, I was just like, probably more than I was expecting. That's why I looked up, I was like, what are these meant to make? So I've never run one before. I was like, what are these meant to make? And I saw it, like, fucking hell, that's actually quite decent.
Now, before we get to the peak numbers that I have right here, I would just like to say thank you very much to Prestige Tuning and Motorsport for letting me put my Lexus ISF on their dyno. If you'd like to get your car properly dyno tuned, or whether you'd just like to do some pulls like what I did, they've got a great setup in there, and I would definitely recommend them, so hit them up via the link in the description. Now, the peak numbers that my ISF made, obviously bear in mind this car makes 311 crank kilowatt and 505 crank newton meters. So it made 284 wheel kilowatt, which is only 27 down on the crank amount, and 483 wheel newton meters, which is only 22 down on the crank torque figure. So really impressive numbers, and in talking to the guy that runs the place there, you would have heard, mate, he was quite impressed with the numbers that this thing put out for just a 5-litre V8. And for my American viewers, it made 381 wheel horsepower and 356 wheel pound-feet of torque. And it's interesting too looking at the graphs, because it really does summarize how this V8 operates. If you take a look at the torque curve that it has here, you see, to be honest, it doesn't really make a whole lot of torque down low here. But at 3800 RPM, that flap in the intake opens, and not only does it make a whole lot more noise, but it makes a hang of a lot more torque too. And you really notice when that flap opens that the torque just absolutely rips right up to its peak torque figure at 5200 RPM. This is not a particularly grunty V8 down low, but if you get it up over 3800 RPM, you can see here on the dyno, it makes a very solid amount of torque, and then obviously peters off after that. But the power, man alive, especially at the higher RPMs, it's so incredibly linear. Literally just follows a dead straight line all the way to its peak power at about 6000 RPM, which is very, very impressive. And the really interesting thing about this is that it looks remarkably similar to the graph on my Honda Accord. And I've always said with these that they really do drive just like a V8 Accord Euro. And even just looking at the peak numbers, my Accord made 150 wheel kilowatt, this makes around 300. My Accord made around 240 wheel newton meters, this makes around 480. It's got double the displacement, double the cylinders. It really is just kind of like an Accord Euro, but doubled. And what's really interesting too is when you now drive it, you can see how all of that makes sense in the grand scheme of things. If I put my foot down here in second gear, it doesn't do a whole lot. 3800. That's when it really gets going, and obviously it's over pretty quickly because this car is not slow, but you know, you notice there, it doesn't do a whole lot at like 2000 RPM, but then it hits 3800 and you just get hit with this wave of torque, which is really impressive. And my old silver Accord was much the same. And that's what I love about it. It really is just like my old Accord, but with double the power, double the torque, double the cylinders, and double the displacement. This is still a very, very impressive car, very quick, fantastic noise as you'll hear. And the transmission, while it's perhaps a little bit jerky around town, some of the downshifts aren't so great, my goodness, when you get it singing at the higher RPMs, it's as good as any ZF, any dual clutch. It is fast and snappy to go through the gears. And while not a perfect car, for just cruising around, for going on road trips, for taking it on track, it really is a do-everything car, which I just absolutely love. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this look at my Lexus ISF, seeing how much power it makes and sort of seeing how that translates into the on-road driving experience. And if you want to see some more videos with my ISF, then click on the links popping up right about now, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time.